Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Your Legislators. I'm Anthony Morneau. Thank you for joining us. On the program today is New Mexico District 34 Republican State Senator Ron Griggs. Senator Griggs serves on the Senate Indian, Rural, and Cultural Affairs Committee and the Senate Tax, Business, and Transportation Committee. Senator, thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
I'm excited to do that, Anthony. Thank you for the invitation.
It's always great to sit down and talk with you about the issues that are affecting your district and the state. Let's start off with legislation you've been working on. Now, I know you have been working on this for some time. Let's talk about Senate Bill 27, the local government's hold harmless deductions bill relating to taxation. Can you give us an understanding of what this bill is and what it aims to do and how you think it can impact your community and district?
Thank you, Anthony. You know, that particular bill, you gotta have a little history on it. Back in 2004, the legislature removed the tax on food and created what was called a hold harmless payment to municipalities and counties to make them whole from the loss of the food tax. So the legislature then came along in 2013 and decided we needed to remove the hold harmless payments, and so they graduated that reduction. And so right now, the hold harmless payment to communities has been reduced to about 50% of what it would be. So what Senate Bill 27 does is it stops that payment at that 50% mark. So communities will continue to have a stable source of revenue from now on. There's another competing bill that does it different. And I'm not certain, to tell you the truth, that Senate Bill 27 is the best answer, but it's the answer that I think we can best utilize because it is fair to all communities. The other bill, which is Senate Bill 26, only selects out about 8 communities across the state to benefit, and the rest of the communities will suffer further reductions.
Do you think this bill really is focused on rural communities? Is that where it can really make a difference?
You know, it focuses on communities above 10,000 people, such as Alamogordo, Carlsbad, Hobbs. Las Cruces is in this as well, because Las Cruces gets a substantial amount of money from hold harmless payments. And if we don't get those, if cities don't get those, well, what are they going to have to do if they've already, or they're used to receiving that revenue? They have to either raise taxes, raise fees, something in order to continue having the revenue they're used to having. So it's critical we find a way to deal with hold harmless, and I'm hopeful that this will at least be something we can do for a period of time until we come up with a better solution.
Now, as somebody who's worked on tax policy for some time, you serve on the committee that really addresses it as well. What are your thoughts on New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham announcing that she wants a cut in the GRT? Your thoughts on that proposal, and do you have any concerns about it?
You know, I believe that particular deal is a little more show than it is dough.
Why so? Why more show?
Well, let's look at it real quick. A quarter of 1%. If you have $1,000 in gross receipts, taxable purchases over the course of a month, that's 25 cents, or excuse me, it's $2.50. You get $2.50 reduction in your in the amount of tax you pay. So, if you have more, obviously, that's a bigger savings. But for the average New Mexican who makes about $27,000 a year, you're going to come back with a net number of maybe, let's pick 2024, because it's easier math. And then let's say you come across there and you have your car payment, which didn't GRT, you don't get GRT on it. have your house payment, rent, whatever it might be. So let's just say you got $1,000 a month that you could spend on things that are gross receipts taxable. Well, that's $2.50 if you spend all of that.
So do
So
you
it
think it
looks
needs
to
to
me
go
like
further?
it's not a big deal to you, Anthony, but there are some other things that I think if we want to, because we've got a tremendous amount of revenue up here, we could sit there and give rebates. We could look at targeted income tax cuts. Those things would have a better impact on the New Mexican you really wanted to hit, other than the 25% or 25%, the quarter of 1% GRT reduction.
So who are the New Mexicans that you think this policy needs to focus on?
Well, ask that again so I can be more
Well,
clear.
you mentioned that this isn't going to affect the New Mexicans you really want to hit. Who are the New Mexicans that you think should be affected by this? This policy could make a difference.
Absolutely. I think you want to hit the New Mexicans who need tax relief the most. And that's the middle class New Mexican who, as we look at other things that we're talking about, and I'm hoping you want to talk about this a little bit. We're going to talk about Social Security, military retirement, those particular things. Well, as we reduce that income for the state there, we have to be sure that maybe going after that gross receipts tax is a little too much, because it is for the state. It generates a lot of money for the state. It just doesn't have a lot of impact on you or me. So I think it's best, when you have situations like we have now, to consider rebates. And if we could find the right number, which I know I have a colleague up here that's working on a number that's $1,000 rebate for average New Mexicans, every New Mexican actually. So when you're talking about $2.50 a month, which times 12 is about $30 versus maybe $1,000 or some number in that vicinity, there is a little bit of difference there.
Now, since you brought it up, I would like to talk about Social Security. This legislative session, there's probably been the biggest push for the repeal on Social Security benefits income in New Mexico. Now, this kind of stalled in a legislative session, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on how this is playing out. Because I know this has kind of been an issue for both parties to really address in regards to repealing the tax on Social Security in New Mexico. So your thoughts and where you stand on the issue.
Well, the tax on Social Security is a double tax. It's something that needs to be removed. We need to then figure out what's going to be the ultimate benefit when you talk about Social Security. Are you going to attract more retirees to take care of that revenue loss, or what will come out of it? But the revenue supposedly lost with Social Security removal of that tax is about $120 million. We believe that that's something that we can handle, and is a really good thing. I mean, it makes us competitive with other states, and the only concern I have about it, actually, Anthony, is can I vote for it?
So your mind's not made up on it? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Okay.
my mind's made up on it. It's just since I get Social Security, is it a conflict of interest?
Okay. Well, then you offer a unique perspective here for our viewers, because we're at this time during the pandemic where we're seeing a lot of folks looking for more wide open spaces, getting out of the heavily populated urban areas. There's a large number of baby boomers that are retiring right now and looking for places to retire. Is New Mexico missing out on an opportunity to really capitalize on bringing more retirees to the state?
In a word, I would say absolutely. New Mexico, and if you look at our state, you look at our cities, you're in Las Cruces, I'm in Alamogordo, both of those places have gotten quite a few people move into to our communities. And so we're now faced with growing communities because of the pandemic. All of those people aren't, however, those who get Social Security. But I fully believe that as times change a little bit, as things start easing, people are going to look at things differently than they have, and they're going to be excited about at least having the opportunity to come to New Mexico. Because if no Social Security tax in Arizona, Colorado, and Texas, well, who's the only one that does? Oh, it's New Mexico. So we're not even going to consider you. So we at least need to be on the page of being considered. And I think when people consider us, they will want to be here.
I want to move on and talk about the other issue you talked about, and that is, the retirees in the military and the taxing that they receive as well. I know there's been some push on this to get a bill across to remove that tax. What can you tell us on that? What's an update? And do you think this is something that could get addressed in this short session?
Absolutely. I do believe that we're going to see a bill pass on military retirement. And, it looks like, Anthony, I've done everything I could to quieten some stuff down, but it still comes through. So I'm hopeful I can talk over it. But the military retirement issue, we've got several bills, one that caps it at $30,000, one that also tries to graduate it coming through. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I'm hearing you all right.
Okay.
I understand the busy, a lot of things are happening. The session is winding down, and there's a lot of voices telling you where you need to be and what's going on. So I understand that this is a busy time, but we have plenty to talk about with you. So I want to continue, but we can hear you just fine.
Good. One of the things right now is I often up here have people telling me what I ought to do and think, just so you know. And but no, military retirement, I think we're going to get that. I just don't know which one. I would imagine there's one that caps you don't pay tax up to $30,000. So if you make more than $30,000, you'll be taxed on that portion above. But I think that really gives us a good chance to keep a lot of our military retirees here. I think Senator Burt's bill, which graduates it in and gets more of that taxable money and keeps it from being taxed, I think that's a better bill. But I don't believe that's the one we're going to get.
Okay, now I would appreciate it though if you could just have your advisors hold off a second, because we want to talk with you, the man who the folks elected to represent their district. I want to move on and talk about more legislation, and that is Senate Bill 93, the Community Educators Act. Tell us about this bill and how you think it could help New Mexico with this shortage of educators that we're dealing with right now.
Anthony, I like this bill. I've actually carried this bill about 4 years, not in a row, but during Governor Martinez's administration, we tried to run it every year. And at that point, it was called Adjunct Teachers Act. And so where we are with it is it's not germane to the session, so it's not going to be heard. But I think what it is it's an opportunity to use people who are qualified in professions to then be able to come in, step in, and teach classes only about half time. And then what this bill does, it sets a specific amount of pay for these individuals, and then allows for them to select a certain amount of money to go to extracurriculars. So if you, Anthony, wanted to come in and teach a class, a math class, and then you could designate where you would like to send some dollars to what extracurricular program, be it the football team, be it the band, be it the orchestra, be it the chess club. Any number of those things you could choose to do, so long as it was one of the 10 items that the school board selected. So I think that it would be a great thing for our schools, because we got about 800 to 1,000 openings.
Yeah.
until somebody else presents something better, I think it's time to keep pushing this to give, local school boards that opportunity.
Well, we're in a situation where the National Guard has been called in to help alleviate some of the shortages in the state when it comes to education and filling in for educators in New Mexico. The governor herself substitute teached recently. That made some news across the area. But I'd like to hear more about you. Like, how would this really affect each different district? Because I'd imagine a bill like this, there's a big difference between your rural school districts where you might have a teacher who teaches a full day of teaching and then maybe hops on a bus and drives students home on a bus route as well. So, I mean, this is something that's not unique in our state. It happens in rural school districts. So I'd like to hear from you, how do you see this playing a different role in different school districts, or is this more focused towards a rural school district?
You think about it, look at where we are. We've got Holloman and White Sands, which give us an opportunity to tap in to the individuals that work there. And those guys are highly qualified, highly capable. We've got an excellent school district in Cloudcroft. And then I believe the Anthony School District, they're doing great things. So we have opportunities to tap into those guys who might want to teach part-time. It's a win for us. Other school districts, it's going to be harder because they don't maybe have those guys there. But let's presume that somebody in the city of Gallup has retired from the labs in Sandia in Albuquerque, and he wants to be in Gallup because that's where his family is. It gives him an opportunity to step in and do that in Gallup. So I don't know. I think it could work statewide. We just have to see.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this issue because it's a major issue in our state. Now, obviously, lawmakers have been advancing a bill that raises the base salaries of teachers and educators, hoping that this could help attract more teachers into the profession and really keep teachers in the profession as we endure this pandemic, as many teachers have been asked to do so much, filling in for other teachers during their planning periods and such. So your thoughts on what's being addressed with this issue on that teacher pay raise? Do you support that, and do you think that that's the right approach?
Anthony, it passed the Senate unanimously the other day. So it is helpful to New Mexico. It says that, okay, we're going to treat you better pay-wise than the surrounding states because we want you to come to New Mexico. Our challenge, just like all school districts across the country are facing, is that there are not enough teachers potentially to fill the positions there. We're not graduating enough teachers, so we have to compete among the teachers that we have. So hopefully this will help bring more teachers to New Mexico because it shows that we value teachers enough and we want them to come to our state to teach our kids and to improve the quality of their lives as well as the educational opportunities for students here. And time will tell. But even so, even with it, Anthony, we're still 800 or more teachers short. We're not going to fix it right like that just by giving teachers a substantial bump in salary.
Well, of course, there's some questions that need to be answered in regards to the next generation of teachers and education programs in higher education. Those are something I know that there's still a lot of questions about. But I want to move on and talk with you about another issue I know that you care about, and that's economic development. I know you're concerned about communities in your district and how they can continue to develop their economy in a sustainable way. Your thoughts on what you're seeing right now, because we're in a year where New Mexico is about to implement a very new industry, and that is the adult use cannabis industry. I know there's been some news in Alamogordo about the industry buying up some property there, bringing jobs to that area. So your thoughts on how this is going to make a difference in your district and across the state?
Absolutely. Where we're going to see with marijuana, and we don't know numbers. We can only imagine and speculate on what they might be. The law is passed, whether any of us agreed or didn't agree. The law is passed. In Alamogordo, Ultra Health has purchased what was the old Western Baking Company, which would make product cookies primarily, and is a world class facility for doing that. So you can certainly see with him, with that business, that he's poised to really do some good. One of the things that I think we might consider, and it's not our legislature, but it's potentially national, is the fact that the more states who actually legalize cannabis, or I'm sorry, Anthony, I still go back to marijuana. I've been around too long, I guess. I don't know, but
well, I just go on what the bill says. It says adult use cannabis. I mean, our viewers know what you're talking about when you address, when you talk about the industry. I mean, there's a lot of excitement about it, but there's a lot of things we still don't know. This bill was passed very fast, and it has a deadline coming up in April to be available for retail sales. So your concerns right now with what you're seeing with the industry?
We had a bill that came through committee the other day that's changing some of the rules a little bit, and one of the things it was dealing with is a micro business was identified in the law as having 200 plants. They could grow up to 200 plants. Well, this particular bill wants to change that and say it's going to be up to 1,000 plants. And that's a substantial change in this particular deal. And I don't really see reasoning one way or another for it, but that's coming. So marijuana, I mean, it's here. It's going to happen. The opportunity over in Alamogordo, though, if the federal side of things would look into it and say maybe states who've legalized marijuana should be able to sell product across state lines, that would be a phenomenal opportunity for him. So I think it's something that our federal delegation could discuss and consider, and see if that was something that they felt like was right for this time.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because there are some big differences. Obviously, federal law does not recognize that as a legal substance. And right outside Alamogordo, you have a checkpoint where that could play a role in, possibly hindering this industry a little bit, because it is dealt with in cash. And, when people are moving product or cash through the area, do you have any concerns about that checkpoint, that federal checkpoint, possibly impacting the growth of the industry in your community?
Frankly, I haven't given that a lot of thought on how that could be impacted. So we'll, once again, it's just going to be one of those things that we'll see. There's so many unknowns about how this works, but it's worked in other states, so it's bound to be able to work here. We'll have to kind of get through it and see what we need.
Okay, now we just have a little bit over 2 minutes with you left, Senator. I want to talk with you about something that obviously a lot of folks in New Mexico are concerned about, and that is we're in this situation right now where the state has excess revenue to where it can try some new things and possibly invest in some areas that need to be invested in. But we all know that this is thanks to the excess revenue from oil and gas and the industry there, and the federal pandemic relief, which is going to not be around forever. So your thoughts on what the state needs to do to create a more sustainable economy for when that federal money runs out, and if there's a bust cycle within the oil and gas industry in New Mexico?
Well, thanks for that, Anthony, because truly one of the things that we have to do is we have to embrace the fact that our economy is driven by oil and gas. We've got opportunities when the governor talks about a hydrogen hub. You know, there's when you talk about blue hydrogen, that's dealing with natural gas production or casing head gas from oil wells. It provides an opportunity to maybe you can have natural gas, you can have oil, and you can have hydrogen, which would then be a remarkable thing for New Mexico. It is a concern to me that we continually want to kill the cash cow. And oil and gas is the cash cow. And if you step back from things just a little bit, all you have to do is think, well, what is it going to cost me, Anthony Moreno, if there isn't any oil and gas production?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I want to know, because we were in a situation several years ago when the industry did go bust, and lawmakers like yourself had to make tough choices. So what can the state do now with excess revenue? We only have 20 seconds left, I'm sorry, but what can the state do now to really address the issue so we have more of a sustainable income and revenue?
Well, we need to continue to work on economic opportunities and maybe hydrogen's it, maybe there's some other things.
Okay.
I don't know, Anthony, but we're going to work hard to find them.
Well, we look forward to following up with you and learning more about your thoughts on that issue. State Senator Ron Griggs, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us on Your Legislators.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry for some of those background discussions.
It's all right. Thanks for taking the time, Senator.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We want to thank you for joining us for Your Legislators. I'm Anthony Moreno. We'll see you next time.